Starting a podcast is a powerful way to build authority, grow an audience, and generate substantial income. From my own experience, I've landed a 5-figure sponsorship deal in my first year of podcasting. I've also helped my clients achieve exceptional growth, like the time that I grew a YouTube channel using podcasting from 0 to 130,000 subscribers in just 6 months, and I've generated nearly $500,000 of podcast-related revenue in the last 3 years alone. Now, here are 10 proven ways to transform your podcast into a reliable $10,000 a month income stream. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first one is probably the most obvious one, which I talked about there in the beginning. It's sponsorship and advertising deals. Now, you can partner with brands that resonate with your audience to secure recurring sponsorships. Long-term deals create consistent income and build trust. The way that you could do that is obviously through positioning. You have to ensure that there is a right audience for the right product that you're trying to pitch. Perhaps you have a high value podcast and you know the exact tools, frameworks, services, whatever that resonate with your audience. Reach out to those brands and see if you can secure a long-term partnership deal. Number 2 is through affiliate marketing. Now, I would actually get in the door with some of these brands in this way. You can promote high value products and services through affiliate links in your episodes. This works well when you choose offers that benefit your audience, similar to sponsorships. Now, if you haven't had an opportunity to speak to those brands directly and they have an affiliate program, you can actually take that affiliate link, track through a dashboard, and see how many of your audience members are converting to that particular product or service offer. Now, I've done this in the past and have been able to present a case as to why that particular company should work with me and have secured long-term partnership deals. Side note, but I would also include other means of monetization, meaning that if your podcast is one medium and you have a thriving Instagram account or a LinkedIn or even a newsletter, you can include that in your offering whenever you're trying to upsell a sponsor. This is different than obviously just affiliate marketing because you may be able to share a link here and there. But if you have like a full suite offering, omnichannel type of sponsorship deal, then you may be able to get more bang for your buck. Number 3 is through AdSense and YouTube monetization. This is the manner that most people are familiar with in monetizing their YouTube and obviously podcast. Video podcasts on YouTube allow you to monetize through ad revenue, adding another steady income stream, especially with consistent uploads. Now, this isn't my favorite way of monetizing your podcast because sometimes it can be unreliable. Ad rates can vary throughout the year. And if your podcast is niche enough where it actually targets just a very small subset of the population, you may not actually get enough traffic to your video first podcast to generate substantial ad revenue. So I would say don't rely on this one. If it's there for the taking, great. Awesome. If it's not, don't worry too much about it. Number 4 is probably one of my favorite ones and the way that I've actually been able to secure the majority of my podcast related revenue. That is through selling a high ticket product or service. There are a ton of examples of people who use video first podcasting to generate interest and leads for their high ticket product or service. Graham Cochran is a perfect example of this. Ravia Abuvala has also used podcasting to a degree for this particular purpose. Another example of this is Omar El Takori, who used to be with Think Media. He recently launched a podcast on YouTube and has seen massive success with his business because he's attracting the right eyes and ears, even though he's not necessarily trying to go viral. This approach is effective for those of you who have a premium service or are looking to start one. And by the way, total side note, but if you don't have one, or if you're looking to refine your offer or your service and are looking to start a podcast, I have the perfect solution for you. My team and I craft a 90-day roadmap where we help you curate your messaging, ensure that you have the right target audience for your specific product or service, and ensure that the price point is appropriate so that you can actually create and generate anywhere between $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month plus with your podcast. This is called the Podcast Machine, and I have a video on it, so stick around to the end so you can get a little bit more information on how this blueprint works. The 5th way of getting your podcast related revenue to $10,000 a month plus is if your podcast has a large engaged audience, you can actually charge guests for the exposure, particularly if they're looking to promote a book launch or gain visibility. I've known a few podcasts that charge for guest appearances. Now, some people may or may not necessarily feel right about this, but I don't see a problem with it, especially if it's the right fit. You can have an application form not approve every single person that applies for it. However, if they apply, they're a good fit and are willing and able to pay the fee, then they can come on board. Number 6 is crowdfunding and listener donations. Platforms like Patreon let you accept listener support through donations with rewards like bonus episodes or exclusive content, behind the scenes content, etc. I've been a fan of Patreon for years. In fact, I started on Patreon, I think back in 2017, and probably peaked around $500 a month before dying off. The thing about Patreon is you have to consistently feed the machine. A great example of this is Ruslan. Ruslan is a Christian podcaster and content creator. He's used Patreon in so many different ways. He's kind of a friend of mine. We've known each other for some time, and I used to be part of his Patreon community. He leverages Patreon really, really well, so I'd recommend you check out his content and take a look at how he structures his Patreon community. Another great example is a friend of mine, Will Hatton. Will is a musician, producer, has incredible content, and also has a Patreon community. There, he layers different types of memberships, so you get different types of access to him, whether it's coaching or just the community. It's a great framework. So check out Will Hatton's YouTube, and he's also got a podcast, which I featured on, so check out that episode as well. Number 7 is premium content subscriptions. You can offer paid subscribers access to in-depth episodes, bonus content, or early access. This can create loyal paying listeners. Now, this is similar to Patreon, but instead of crowdfunding or a donation style type of offering, you can do this in a variety of ways. There are different platforms that allow you to create a paywall before accessing content. So you don't necessarily have to use the Patreon model. You can, in fact, create your own app or use something like Kajabi to have a paywall for different subscription style services. There's kind of that gray area nuance between Patreon and what a premium content subscription is, but I would say a large YouTube channel like Daily Wire has done this really, really well. And they obviously use the podcasting medium to a degree to drive a ton of traffic to their particular content subscription. Number 8 is through product launches and merchandising. You can use your podcast to launch books, courses, or merchandise. Building anticipation through episodes drives engagement and sales. So a great example of this is, again, my friend Ruslan. Ruslan has these limited releases that he does every now and again with merch. It creates anticipation for those unique merch drops, and he has them on a limited time basis. So there's more urgency to buy the product. In the past, I've used sites like Printful and Shopify combined to do print on demand. The quality is not that great, to be honest with you. However, it's easy knowing that I don't have to fulfill the product, and they only charge me when one product is purchased, meaning that I don't have to house and purchase a ton of inventory, not knowing whether or not it's going to sell. So try it out, printful.com, and then of course Shopify. They're not sponsoring this video, but I wanted to give them a shout out. Number 9 is keynote speaking and workshops. If you establish yourself as a podcast authority, it actually opens doors to paid speaking engagements and workshops. You can then expand your reach and revenue this way. A prime example, Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett is a perfect example. Stephen Bartlett is the number one pick for most of leadership and business engagements as the go-to keynote speaker. He's well liked, and the fact that he has had incredible guests and he knows how to speak and orate and has showcased that through his podcasting makes him a great pick. He's safe, he's friendly, he's entertaining, and he's built a huge personal brand off of the back of his podcast. Last but not least, number 10 is to build a newsletter. You can monetize a newsletter in many different ways. And I know this is kind of adjacent to a few of the points that I've made here, but the fact that you have an owned audience and you can build up a newsletter to effectively sell products or sell ad space really is another great way to make podcast adjacent revenue through your newsletter. Your newsletter can in turn market your podcast episodes. If you drive people to your newsletter, you can give like free guides or lead magnets or anything else for that matter. You could shout out your newsletter on your podcast. Because it's in the written format, it's going to be a little bit different than your podcast. But again, you can use that newsletter to market your podcast and write more thought out pieces, give your insights on those episodes, all the while adding links to different products or services, or even just a general ad space there for sponsors. Each of these approaches can compound, building multiple streams of income as your audience grows. You have to choose the strategies that resonate with your show's message and bring the most value to your audience first. Now, if you want a step-by-step guide on a 90-day roadmap in creating your MVP, your minimally viable podcast that can generate you profits long-term, go ahead and check out the video here to see if you'd be interested in working alongside us and helping you shape your profitable podcast. I'll see you on the other side.